Welcome to the JT Sports Podcast, where I give you my raw, uncut, and unbiased takes on the NFL and college football every single day. Make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss when we upload new episodes. If you needed to see any more signs that it's time for the Steelers to move on from Mike Tomlin, if losing to the Cardinals and Patriots wasn't enough for you, this game was it. And I was an idiot forever picking Pittsburgh to win this game, with Mitch Trubisky being the starting quarterback. And I knew I effed up picking the Steelers to win when I heard at the start of this game, the announcers talking about how they talked to Mike Tomlin and asked him why he has decided to continue to roll with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. And you know what his answer was? It was because Mitch Trubisky has had experience being the franchise quarterback in the past. If Mike Tomlin ever watched Trubisky at Chicago and once thought that he was franchise quarterback material at any point, then it definitely explains the reasoning for why they drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round. And I thought that I would never utter these words, but I miss Kenny Pickett. The dude isn't good, but he's better than Mitch Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky, he overthrows wide receivers constantly. It doesn't matter if they're 50 yards open downfield or if they're 3 yards open off a slant. He's going to find a way to put the ball in the dirt. And what really blew me the most from Mitch Trubisky's performance wasn't even the interceptions. It was him constantly overlooking open wide receivers. So when he overthrew Pat Freiermuth on the third down, he overlooked a wide open Allen Robinson who was open on a 5-yard hitch. Not just that, but he overthrew George Pickens. He was open, had his defender beat by several yards on the deep post. And instead, Mitchell Trubisky holds the ball too long and then decides to say, F it, I'm going to just let it loose anyway. And when George Pickens finally gets the opportunity to catch a deep ball, it's a bad thrown pass by Mitch Trubisky, and George Pickens gets out-muscled for it, and it results in the interception. I really question if Mitchell Trubisky has been holding Mike Tomlin at gunpoint the last couple of weeks, because there's no way he could have watched this dude play the way that he did against Arizona and New England and possibly thought that he was the best quarterback on the team at this moment who gave this team the best shot at winning. It really puzzled me how he benched this dude the final closing minutes of the game once it was already out of reach. When it was a decision 2 quarters too late, he should have benched him once he overthrew Pat Freiermuth. Mitchell Trubisky is one of the worst quarterbacks that I've ever watched in all my years watching football. This dude is ass, man. And I get really irritated when Steeler fans say, man, Mike Tomlin, he didn't ask for Mitch Trubisky. You got to be really naive to believe that Mike Tomlin, who has spent numerous years with this franchise, doesn't have a say in who he decides to pick for his backup quarterback. He wanted Mitch Trubisky back. He said it. At the start of this game, the commentator said that Mike Tomlin felt that Trubisky had experience being a franchise quarterback in the past. Well, I think Mike Tomlin's blind. And also something that really was frustrating wasn't just the turnovers from Mitch Trubisky, but the sorry play from the linebackers and secondary. And the linebackers have been garbage all season long, so how they played in this game was no surprise. But when Zach Moss got injured, you would have thought that Indianapolis would struggle running the football, but no. Their third and fourth string running backs, they were going off. I haven't seen Trey Sermon play since his college days at Oklahoma. Like, when he came in the game, I was like, is that Trey Sermon from Oklahoma? No way. And he was going off. And then they got Tyler Goodson, who was snapping also. It was really a great day for me to watch my dude Trey Sermon, somebody who was one of my favorite running backs when he was playing for Oklahoma. And of course, he was going to have a great afternoon because you're going up against the Steelers' run defense, which isn't good. The linebackers, not only are they terrible against the run, but they're terrible in pass coverage. And your defensive backs, they suck too. Minka got injured. You had Casey, who got ejected from the game due to the hit that he put on Michael Pittman. Mike Tomlin For him to be a defensive-minded coach, this has to be the worst defense he's ever had. And Pittsburgh has had some pretty shitty defenses under him. But this defense, if it wasn't for how good the pass rush is, this probably would be one of the worst defenses in the NFL. This secondary can't cover a nosebleed. Joey Porter Jr., outside of Patrick Peterson, is the best cornerback that the Steelers have. And that's when he's not giving up a pass interference penalty. They have no safety depth. Mika Fitzpatrick got injured in this game, and Casey went out. So, of course, the secondary play was going to be even more abysmal than usual. And isn't Mike Tomlin a former defensive backs coach? Doesn't he specialize in this area? So why is it that the secondary is arguably the worst part of the defense? I don't know which is worse, the linebackers or the secondary. You guys let me know down in the comment section. Like, this dude really allowed his defense to get shredded by Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew had 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. And the large reason why I went with Pittsburgh to win this game was because I thought that they would be able to force Gardner Minshew into some mistakes. I thought that they would be able to come up on the winning end of the turnover battle, but they lost it in a major way. The Colts had forced 3 takeaways from Pittsburgh. 2 were gifts from Mitch Trubisky, because anytime you're playing him, you know he's going to give you a couple of Christmas gifts early. And then you had the Najee Harris fumble, which when that took place, that was pretty much the nail in the coffin. It's time for Mike Tomlin to go. He always preaches how the standard is the standard, but I remember when I first became a fan of this team back in 2008. The standard used to be competing for championships and Super Bowls every single season. But over the last couple of years, it seems like the standard that this fan base is okay with and continues to make excuses for why Mike Tomlin should keep his job with this franchise is that, well, he's never had a losing season. You can't fire a coach that's never had a losing season. Why can't you? Because the Steelers, they're not going anywhere with Mike Tomlin. He'll never be a bad enough coach where the Steelers will bottom out and they'll have one of the worst records in the NFL. But it's pretty apparent and obvious that the Steelers are stuck in mediocrity. They're stuck in the mud and they can't get their car out. 9-8 seasons are acceptable, and losing the first round is acceptable too, according to the Mike Tomlin sexuals out there who continue to make excuses for this dude. Oh, well, Mike Tomlin didn't ask for Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. You got to be pretty naive to believe that Mike Tomlin, with all the years that he spent with this franchise, doesn't have a say in who gets to return as his backup quarterback and who he gets to draft. He wanted Kenny Pickett. He wanted Mitch Trubisky to come back. And for the life of me, I just want to stop watching the Steelers play. I just hope that next week they lose to Cincinnati and they get eliminated from playoff contention, so I don't got to put myself through this 3.5 hours of torture watching this disappointment of a football team. At least the only positive from this loss is that Mike Tomlin, in his post-game presser, he went up to the podium and he took full responsibility for the Steelers' terrible play over the last couple of weeks. One thing I've always admired about Mike Tomlin is that he's always accountable. And he said that change was coming, but I don't know if I can believe him because he said change was coming a couple of weeks ago. And I still see the same product on the field. Change is going to come. We're going to make some changes. And every single week, what does the offense do? 3 and out, 3 and out. Chris Boswell field goal. 3 and out, 3 and out. Chris Boswell field goal. It's funny how when they scored 1 touchdown, which was pretty much a Najee Harris fumble recovery in the end zone, that play was terrible. And yet, even when the Steelers find ways to score, it still looks ugly. Indianapolis, they outcoached and outplayed Pittsburgh in this game. Gardner Minshew was going off. These unknown wide receivers that I never heard of, the dude for Indianapolis who had dropped an easy touchdown earlier in the game, he started going off later in the second half. He made a big play. Their tight end had a big touchdown grab because you know the linebackers can't cover for nothing. What an embarrassing performance out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Big Ben got a lot of backlash for his comments about how the Pittsburgh Steelers tradition isn't the same anymore. But it looks like he was 110% correct about his stance on Mike Tomlin and the Steelers franchise right now. And I was watching a little bit of his live reaction to this game, and he was flabbergasted at how poor of a product Mike Tomlin put out this afternoon. You lose 2 straight to 2 of the worst teams in the NFL, but that's what you expect out of a Mike Tomlin coach team. Normally, he has his team ready to play when their backs are against the wall, but that wasn't the case this afternoon. Has the team quit on Mike Tomlin? I don't believe that. And Mike Tomlin, he has way too much respect from these players in the locker room for them to ever think about giving up on him. At least the veterans on this team, like TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, you know that they're going to give you 110% every single game. They're not going to quit on Mike Tomlin. And this team, they still fight for Mike. The problem is he decided to start Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. Even if Mason Rudolph is worse than Mitch, you still have to give him a shot when you got a guy who can't even hit an open wide receiver 5 yards in the middle of the field and constantly is overlooking guys who are open. It's not the first time that we've seen Mitch Trubisky overthrow Allen Robinson. You see, I don't even get why George Pickens gets frustrated when Mitchell Trubisky overlooks him when he's wide open, because Allen Robinson, he didn't get frustrated when Mitch Trubisky didn't look his way on third down. You want to know why? Because he's used to it, because he went through the same BS when he was with the Chicago Bears. Mike Tomlin should have asked Allen Robinson if Mitchell Trubisky looked like a franchise quarterback when he was playing with him in Chicago, because he probably would have told him the truth. He would have told him that, nah, this dude is dog shit. This has to be the worst quarterback that I've ever seen start in the National Football League. Mitch Trubisky shouldn't even be a backup. He should be playing in the damn USFL or the XFL. That's where he belongs. Like, is Mitchell Trubisky holding Mike Tomlin at gunpoint? I really pray that either we see Mason Rudolph for the remainder of this season play, or Kenny Pickett can get healthy ASAP, because any other of those 2 options will be better than seeing that travesty at quarterback again. I'm tired of seeing Mitch Trubisky. I want him out of Pittsburgh. It annoys me when Kenny Pickett gets injured and they throw Trubisky out there, because with Mike Tomlin being a defensive-minded coach, his philosophy is always about taking care of the football, not giving the extra team or not giving the other team extra possessions. But when you got a reckless QB like Mitch Trubisky that plays quarterback like a chicken with his head cut off, just doing random stupid shit, like that throw to George Pickens was so freaking ridiculously stupid. I had no idea what he was thinking when he should have already had thrown the ball to him, when he had already beat his defender 5 seconds into the play, but instead he decides to hold the football, and then when nobody's open, he just says, F it, I'm going to throw a prayer downfield. It makes no sense. When it's time to take shots downfield, Mr. Trubisky throws checkdowns. When it's time to throw checkdowns, he throws stupid passes down the field. This dude is an embarrassment to the quarterback position, and he's an embarrassment to the Steelers franchise. The fact that Mike Tomlin thought that Mr. Trubisky has ever given this team the best chance to win just shows you why this dude has to go. He's lost his touch. He's never been an offensive-minded guy, but I never thought that this dude was ever this blind to the quarterback position. Even back in 2019 when we had Devlin Duck Hodges at quarterback and Mason Rudolph going back and forth, he made quarterback switches and he didn't hesitate to pull the trigger. So why has he been so hesitant this year to pull the trigger on benching Mitch Trubisky? You bench him the last couple of minutes of the game when it's already out of reach? When if you would have benched him and put in Mason Rudolph when the game was still somewhat winnable, you probably would have improved your chances. That was so dumb of a decision. I'm ready for this season to be over. This is the most disappointed that I've ever been as a Steeler fan. And I've had some really disappointing seasons, like when we lost to Jacksonville and 2018 in the divisional round coming off a bye, when we got clapped by the Browns in 2020 in the wild card round with them having an interim head coach and Baker Mayfield at the helm at QB. But this season is even more disappointing. And it's funny because I didn't even have high expectations for this team coming into this year. If you guys go back and look at my record predictions, I had Pittsburgh going 9-8 and not making it to the playoffs. Yeah, they're going to go 9-8. Mike Tomlin's going to have another winning season, and the Tomlin sexuals are going to continue to say he's not part of the problem. A team's performance is a reflection of the head coach. And what we see right now out of this team shows you that we need change. It doesn't matter about who's going to be better to replace him, who's a proven candidate to replace him. You want to know why it doesn't matter? Because when you're in a relationship and it's not working out, are you going to hesitate to leave because you don't know if you're going to find somebody better? That's not the right mentality for approaching things. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Everybody's not meant to be in your life forever. Some people are seasonal. Some people are meant to be in your life forever. Some people come around for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a couple of years, and then you grow apart. The Tomlin Steelers romance is over. We need some change. We need a new look. We need an offensive-minded coach. We need something, okay? Because I don't know about you, but I want to get back to the level when the Steelers were playing championship football. They may not be able to get back to the still current defense because the league has changed so much. It's so offensive-centric now. But I wouldn't even be against them hiring Big Ben to be Mike Tomlin's replacement at head coach, or to at least be the offensive coordinator. Big Ben looks like he knows what to do, how to fix these issues, but I don't know. But I'm just so irritated as a Steelers fan. So disappointed. And my expectations weren't even high this year. Even when I have low expectations for this team, they find a way to go lower. Mike Tomlin has to go, and this game was a clear indicator why. The Lions absolutely demolished the Denver Broncos Sunday night. We all pretty much knew that the Lions were going to win this game, but they were a complete mismatch from the get-go for the Denver Broncos. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, holy cow. Like, I thought I was watching vintage Tavon Austin, West Virginia highlights every time Jahmyr Gibbs got the ball. He had this one run in the second half when he juked out a defender. He almost broke off the last guy. And then, like, he just slipped. And I was like, Jahmyr, like, you got to stand up, Jahmyr. You got to stay on your feet. Like, this dude, Jahmyr Gibbs, is why the running back position in the next 3 to 4 years is going to be so differently viewed compared to what it is right now. If you're looking for a first-round caliber running back, Jahmyr Gibbs is it. Explosive, elusive in the open field. He's a threat in the passing game. This is what you need out of a modern-day running back in today's NFL. Somebody who can be a complete game changer where all you got to do is get the ball in his hands. Denver's run defense is pretty much the worst in the whole entire NFL. And it was a large reason why I picked the Lions to win this game. Even if the Lions offense has some turnover issues out of Jared Goff, which we didn't see in this game. He had 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. This is the cleanest football that we've seen Jared Goff play in the last month. You had Sam Laporta, who was balling out. Amon-Ra St. Brown was damn near unguardable. I had a homie that I was watching the game with. He was asking me, man, you think I should take another prop bet for Amon-Ra St. Brown getting another touchdown? I told him, nah, they're probably going to run this offense through Jahmyr Gibbs in the second half. The Detroit Lions got a lot of pushback for their early round selections when they took Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, when they traded up for Jahmyr Gibbs, people were like, what the hell are they doing drafting a running back in the first round when they already got David Montgomery? Well, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, they're the best 1-2 punch in the NFL right now. Jahmyr Gibbs is lightning, and David Montgomery, he's a bulldozer. This dude is a freaking tank, and it's easy to forget just how good of a back David Montgomery is because Jahmyr Gibbs is just so damn entertaining to watch. He's like a mixture of Chris Johnson and Jamal Charles put together. If Chris Johnson and Jamal Charles had like a baby, it would be Jahmyr Gibbs. Defensively, Detroit, this is the best game that they've had, all season? This Broncos offense couldn't do anything, but Denver's offense was never that good to begin with. Like, there was a moment in the game when there was an offsides penalty on one of Denver's offensive linemen, and Sean Payton absolutely went off on the sideline against Russell Wilson. And I was like, bro, like, why are you screaming at Russell Wilson for? What the hell did he do? Like, are you mad because you wanted a little bit more time to see if you had to challenge the previous play? Because there were two plays late in this game that looked like touchdowns, but Sean Payton didn't once think about throwing the challenge flag. But yet he's screaming at Russell Wilson, going off on him for some strange reason. I guess we'll find out later throughout the week why that exchange took place. But the Broncos, their offense is only good when they're in the red zone. And I told my friend that the Broncos, they run a red zone offense. And what I mean by them running this red zone offense is not an offense that is not just efficient in the red zone, but it's pretty much their whole entire offense. Their whole offense looks like they just are in the red zone every single drive. They only throw up balls to Courtland Sutton, or they throw checkdowns underneath and try to hope that a wide receiver can break loose and get some yak. Russell Wilson and this Sean Payton marriage is obviously not working out. Sean Payton is just trying to make the best of what he has, but I definitely expect for Denver to be in the quarterback market come this offseason. Rather, if they trade for somebody, maybe a Justin Fields, or if they draft a young quarterback at next year's draft. But Russell Wilson, I don't think Sean Payton is going to be putting up with this dude for too longer. He's not playing bad, but he's not playing great. And with him screaming at him on the sideline, I think that's a pretty clear indicator that he's getting really fed up with seeing Russ at QB. Because this offense is only efficient in the red zone. You can't run a red zone offense for an entire drive. You're not going to be efficient that way. The Broncos offense didn't even put up 30 points all season coming into this game. And you would think them going against a questionable Detroit Lions secondary, they would have been able to have a good performance, but they still struggled. This offense, not only do they take a long ass time to score touchdowns, but I mean, in the red zone, they don't really have too many things that you have to game plan for of your defense. You know that they're either going to throw jump balls to the wide receivers or they're going to try to ground and pound you to the end zone. That's it. And Sean Payton, I got to give him a little bit of criticism for his play calling in this game. I didn't really see anything innovative. I didn't really see anything that was going to be a potential game-changing play. Yeah, the quarterback makes the guy calling the plays look better. But Sean Payton, I believe that he squeezed as much juice out of Russell Wilson as what he was capable of being able to do. Russell Wilson looks way better this season than what he did last year, but this thing is obviously starting to come to a little bit of an end. And coming in to this matchup, the Denver had won 5 out of the last 6, but the way that this team wins games is off turnovers, miscues from the other team, and this offense being okay enough to get the 20, maybe 24 points at times. So it's no surprise that the Detroit Lions smushed the Denver Broncos in this game. I thought coming in, Detroit was going to win this game by at least 10 points. But if you would have told me that it was going to be 21-zip at halftime and the Denver Broncos were going to have to pass the controller over, I would have thought that you were a little bit crazy. Denver's defense has been really lights out since they allowed 70 points to the Miami Dolphins. I just saw Brett Coleman make a video about how the Broncos have a no-fly zone secondary, and that secondary got ate up, chewed up, spat out, and picked up and chewed up and spat out again. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporte, even Jamison Williams. We saw a good amount of his name being called in this game against his fellow Alabama brethren, Patrick Surtain. Like the Lions, their offense looked super dynamic in this game. And once they get to the playoffs, they're going to be a little bit of a tough out for anybody that they play in the second round. I don't believe that there's going to be a team that can beat Detroit when they're playing at home in the postseason, because they are going to at least get one playoff game at home because they're going to win this division. Minnesota lost to the Bengals today. The Green Bay Packers, I think they're way too far behind to even catch up for this division with Detroit. The Lions are going to run away with this thing. It's a one-team race right now. Detroit, their eyes should be set on the 1 seed. You got to play Minnesota twice and the Dallas Cowboys to close off this season. If you can go 3-0 during this stretch, you definitely could put yourself in prime position to get that first round bye in the NFC. For Denver, this was always a 10-win, 9-win team in my eyes. They're on pace to accomplish that. Their last 3 games should be winnable. They should go 3-0 to end it, but this isn't a playoff team. And if they get to the playoffs, they're going to get absolutely embarrassed. We had the battle of the quarterbacks, Jake Browning versus Nick Mullins. And the Jake Browning insanity run lives on. And we're going to have to find a nickname for Jake Browning. I don't know if we call this dude Jake Sanity or Brown Sanity, but this dude has rattled off 3 straight wins as the Bengals starting quarterback. And when he first came in Thursday night in replace of Lamar Jackson, he didn't look too bad to me. And then a couple of weeks later, I see him going off against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I was like, okay, Cincinnati may have something. This dude is the great value version of Joe Burrow. You ever went to Walmart and you see the Fruit Loops, and right next to the Fruit Loops, you have the great value brand Fruit Loops? Jake Browning is great value Joe Burrow. He doesn't have a lot of mobility, but he has enough that he can escape out of pressure, get outside the pocket, and make some accurate throws on the run. He had a dime that he threw to Tyler Boyd in overtime, which Tyler Boyd damn near took it to the house, but he ended up getting stopped a couple of yards short, and it put Cincinnati in position to get the go-ahead field goal to eventually win the game. But even before that, he threw a crazy pass downfield to T. Higgins, which T. Higgins, it was probably a better catch on his behalf because he mossed like 2 damn defenders on the other team, looking like he was the second coming of Randy Moss. And speaking of Jake Browning, we can't talk about his performance without mentioning how well T. Higgins played in this game. This may be T. Higgins' best performance of the season. He's missed a couple of games due to injury. He's set to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of this offseason. Well, at the end of this season. After watching what he did today, Cincinnati has to prioritize getting this dude signed to a long-term extension. You can't allow T. Higgins to leave this organization. This dude is way too valuable to this team. You may be able to draft another wide receiver in next year's draft because we do have a loaded wide receiver class, but T. Higgins, this dude is special. And it's easy to overlook how good this dude truly is when you got Jahmyr Chase. When Jahmyr Chase had to leave this game due to an injury, he really stepped up and delivered big time for this team. Defensively, their run game got absolutely smacked in the mouth. But outside of the run defense, their run defense, got smacked in the mouth. This was a pretty solid performance out of the Bengals defense in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, Nick Mullins made a couple of crazy throws, but a lot of the plays that he made, I feel, were a little bit lucky. And the Nick Mullins experience in this game was absolutely wild. The 2 touchdowns that he threw to Jordan Addison were passes that most quarterbacks wouldn't even think of attempting to throw. And then he threw 2 dumb interceptions. He threw one to one of the Cincinnati Bengals defensive linemen, B.J. Hill. I guess he tried to avoid getting a sack, so he tried to throw the ball away, but all he did was throw it right into B.J. Hill's lap pretty much. And even if that wasn't an interception, that could have been easily called for intentional grounding because there was no wide receivers in the area. It's like Nick Mullins was just going out there and he was just throwing the football. And he had some good moments doing it, but he had some really bad ones. But what really costed Minnesota this game was when they failed to convert on 3rd and 4th down. using the tush push. I've never seen the team fail so miserably at the tush push this year as what the Vikings have. They just need to take the tush push out of their playbook, because anytime they try to run it, it always fails. They couldn't have success doing it on 3rd and 1. So I guess Kevin O'Connell said, fuck it, let's run it again. We should at least be able to get an inch. And they couldn't even do that. If you can't even get 4th and inches using the tush push, that should tell you that you need to stop running it. I haven't seen Minnesota convert a tush push all year long. Every time they try one, it always fails miserably and laughingly. So Minnesota, they're running out of juice. They continue to play musical chairs with the quarterback position. And I strongly doubt that they're going to be able to hold on to the current seeding that they have in terms of the playoffs. Either the Rams are going to end up taking that thing, or maybe another team that is going to come out of the nowhere. Maybe the Giants or the Bears could make a late run at it. I don't know, but the Vikings, their playoff hopes are starting to dwindle and go down the drain. I don't think they got too much left in the tank. Kevin O'Connell has squeezed as much juice out of this offense as he possibly can since the injury to Kirk Cousins. What really has carried this team has been the defense. But the defense, they couldn't find a way to get it done with Byron Murphy giving up that big reception to Tyler Boyd that eventually won the game for Cincy. And my last question for Minnesota Vikings fans, if you're listening this far into the pod, where the fuck has Ty Chandler been all this season? This is the most work that he's gotten all year long. 23 carries, 132 yards, 5.7 yards per attempt in the tutty. He should have been the RB1 at the start of this season. What's taking Kevin O'Connell so long to realize that this is their best running back? Alexander Mattison hasn't been good. They traded for Cam Akers. He got injured, and even when he was healthy, he wasn't good. This Ty Chandler guy, he has a future as the RB1 in Minnesota for the next couple of years. Like, this dude was explosive. He was good after contact. Like, we need to see some more Ty Chandler over the next couple of weeks. This offense probably should run through him a little bit more instead of trying to put the ball in Nick Mullins' hands, asking him to do a lot. It's not like Nick Mullins played bad, but he had some really, really questionable decision making. Like, even on some of his touchdown throws, they kind of could have went in Cincinnati's favor if the coverage was a little bit tighter. Like, he was throwing a lot of caution to the wind. This is it for this episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Check us out on all podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. The JT Sports Podcast is available. And I'll see you guys shortly with another episode.